All right, everyone. First, they came for the ethno-nationalists, the reality of Twitter today. In the wake of the Twitter purge, a lot of people are saying, well, it was actually pretty restrained. You know, it's just the literal Nazis that they were kicking off. Amron's gone, and I think Jared Taylor and some of these other people, they've been kicked off of Twitter for being literal Nazis. They're literally Hitler. And so a lot of people are saying, well, you know, they're wiping away the sweat, and they're like, oh, I guess we're safe because, you know, I'm just new right, or I'm just libertarian, or I'm just a populist, or I'm a garden variety business Democrat that just doesn't get along with the social justice warriors, and I'm sort of anti-left, like anti-alt left. So you think you're safe, huh? I beg to differ. See, the problem is that this is being perpetuated. The purges we see online, domain registrars cutting sites like maybe a Gab or even a Daily Storm or Loose, the limited state stuff on YouTube, Twitter purge, Facebook screwing around with basically everything on site, like even news algorithms, because, you know, we can't have that so-called fake news. We can run ABC's fake report. That's not fake news because it's coming from ABC. Like, it's so much friggin' better. As we've seen over time, this is being perpetuated by the most easily offended groups within the Western world, by basically Angela Merkel, some of the NGOs, and then, you know, hordes of torch-wielding social justice warriors, the people with pink hair. These are the people that they don't like comedy, they don't like satire, and they definitely don't like debate and criticism. Free speech is harmful to them, because usually when people speak, they will voice disagreement with what they believe in, because what they believe in is unpopular. But they want to project an image as though, like, they've won forever, history has ended, and they're, like, totally, like, everyone agrees with them. Anyone else becomes nothing but a leper. The problem is that's a pretty damn broad category, and it encompasses more than the literal Nazi trademark 2016 in the wake of the election. That's what they want you to fixate on now. They're like, well, we're just, you know, just banning a few people. Like, they're hateful, they're racists and stuff. Okay, wonderful. Who's next? Because you're still going to be easily offended. Now that you're not seeing, like, Nazi posts, what you're going to see instead of sitting there and congratulating themselves, saying, oh, thank goodness we won the war over the racists, we kicked them off of Twitter, excellent, great success, now, you know, children will be free to use Twitter to look at porn or buy drugs or whatever else. That's okay, you know, but words are way more harmful than, like, you know, other stuff we'd see there. They don't care about that as much. That's not part of the moral panic currently, which is hysterical to me. No, instead they'll say, oh, but there are still secret Nazis on Twitter. They're still saying secret Nazi stuff. It's just like declaring that milk was racist, like people would drink milk in videos to show, yeah, and dog whistle to the Nazis. It's like it's bullshit. It's obviously bullshit, but a lot of people still, like, they believe it's true, and they believe that it's true, or Pepe, or anything like that. They believe it because, again, those easily offended people browbeat it into the normies that was actually true. What they're going to tell them next is, oh, the alt-right, the new right, and probably the nativists, that'll be the next wave. Those people are secret Nazis. They dog whistle, and they're gatekeepers. So they'll go after them. And then if they get banned, they'll say, oh, instead of congratulating themselves on the great success, they'll go a step further. See, the slippery slope is indeed real, as we have actually seen. We've seen videos put in limited state that have nothing to do with extremism. It has happened. Look at a list of videos in limited state. You can find these around in various places in chunks on the web. A lot of it's just historical music. Nothing to do with extremism. Nothing to do even with a living political ideology, a living political movement, yet it's still put in limited state because it's offensive. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. See, therein lies the problem. Overstretching your definitions. Attempting to get definitions to fit more groups than that should technically. It's a looseness of language. Linguistics, it does indeed matter within the sense of politics and society, certainly in the context of censorship and propaganda. So what they'll go after next, they'll go after the populists, like the regular, like the MAGA folks. They'll say, well, MAGA is now racist, and they'll start going after them. Or they'll go after libertarians, and they'll justify it by saying, these people believe Nazis should be able to speak in a public venue and not be like lepers in society that can't have a job, can't have a normal relationship, and can't say anything, and basically have been branded with a big scarlet N for having, you know, certain beliefs, regardless of what those actual beliefs are or anything else they do in life. We want to brand them as lepers. We got these stupid libertarians trying to oppose us and trying to protect the literal Nazis. We got to take them out too. That's what'll happen. And they'll lean on these tech firms to try to do it. They'll justify it. They'll justify it with every form of legalism. They'll say, well, the advertisers won't like it if we allow, actual free speech. So free speech advocates, they're going to have to suffer too. We're putting them in the naughty corner. Look, it's already happening on YouTube. Algorithmically speaking, people who cover sensitive topics are already labeled with certain number codes that demote their material and bump it down in results lists. And it's also based on what they say in the video. It's not just the tags or the description date or the title. It's also, basically looking at the closed captions, which aren't even 100% accurate, judging whether the video is family friendly or not. Which means that anybody who covers political commentary and isn't a priority user is demoted. That gives a huge, huge advantage to the legacy media and to pundits and the upper political class. They can speak freely. They're priority users and nothing will demote them. If they say, hell, it's not going to demote their video, they can say, fuck it, it won't demote their video. The algorithm never even checks their uploads. It doesn't. It's already been stated by YouTube. This is how the priority user program works. What makes you think that this doesn't happen like on Twitter and stuff? It does. There's no actual shadow ban per se, but there is manipulation of the results that people see based on the content of the tweet or the person's account. Like what account they're using. It matters. Twitter became a respecter of persons. YouTube is becoming a respecter of persons. Facebook always has been. That's what Facebook's all about. Fake popularity. Put more selfies up. See how many fake friends you can have. That's basically what Facebook is. This is just another reason why it's so important for people to begin using alt tech. You don't have to abandon a site. Like, I'm not going to abandon YouTube. I'm not going anywhere. I like YouTube, even as a site, despite all of the flaws that, Google has actually created on its own site. I like using it. But I'm not stupid enough to just be a YouTuber at this point because I cover sensitive topics. Even if my views aren't currently considered out there, once you get rid of the Nazis, who becomes the new total fringe? You've silenced the literal Nazis, now it's the dog whistlers. Once you silence them, which they'll try to do, who becomes the new fringe? The populists, the MAGA people. You silence them, who becomes the new fringe? There's nothing left other than the far left and a bunch of libertarians. There's your new fringe. Essentially, they're trying to whittle things back down to just being a bunch of boring, identical neocons and neoliberals. Free speech is explicitly for the purposes of protecting things that are offensive, obscene, fringe, odd, generally considered disgusting and degenerated. It's the only point to the First Amendment. If you say things that everyone considers normal and, objectively self-evident, nobody has a problem with what you're saying, dude. The new reality that's built in each successive generation is built by the fringe that exists in the prior generation. The fringe millennial voices that you hear online that have such inordinately large audiences, I think the establishment is worried that are simply generally anti-establishment views, left, right, all sorts of different variants on those views, are going to take hold in the next generation. That the Generation Z will just be a mix of like ANCAPs and anarcho-syndicalists and people who just hate globalism. It'll be kind of like the uprising of the anti-war left, like in the early Bush era, wake of Afghanistan, and then certainly after Iraq. A lot of it went past partisan ideology. Some Democrats were targeted as traitors too. And if you have a restoration of that, it makes it way, way harder for the government to censor anything, really. Because people will simply not trust the government to do the censoring. They also won't trust corporations to censor people. You hear the people who are congratulating this saying, oh, thank goodness those Nazis, the literal Nazis, trademark 2016, are gone. The reason why they're congratulating corporations, they're congratulating a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They don't see anything strange about this. They should be a moral arbiter. No, trust me. 10 years ago, we all realized, that includes basically everyone on the left that existed at the time, corporations are not capable of being moral. It's not in their purview. It's also not something they should attempt to do. Their job should be to make money, and when they get too out of hand, when they get too abusive, you muzzle them. You don't give them the ability to censor the vast bulk of all information that reaches the vast bulk of all people, as social media becomes more and more the only real venue on which people can actually generate an audience. That's not a good idea. Because it's gonna be a money concern when they do this. It's going to be primarily to line their own pockets. Like the reason YouTube wouldn't have censored anybody. Limited state wouldn't exist if it weren't for a bunch of advertisers raising a stink. 'Cause it's money. Hundreds of millions of dollars. That's why YouTube censored things. It's not because they're trying to be assholes. But other people can be assholes. And then they can enforce that. They can force them to do so. Alt tech, thankfully, is rising up slowly. Or more quickly now, especially on Gab. Gab is exploding with growth, I believe, last I checked. It's good that these things are developing, but then now we get into a whole different thing of domain registrars. What if a registrar says, well, you don't censor people enough on your site, you're too free, so we're going to kick you off. At some point, you're going to run out of possible places to register your site. It's going to become a little bit of an issue now, isn't it? That's probably the next battle. Again, we don't need to suffer through years of this. I will defend anybody who's being censored, unless what they have been saying is specifically criminal under U.S. code. I don't care if it's criminal in, like, Germany. I don't care if it's criminal in Sweden, because most things that are said on YouTube probably are crimes in Germany. Now, there's a reason people can't sub my channel in Germany. There's a reason. It's because of the Wrong Think Patrol, the literal modern-day SS, goes around online pretending to be like supermen who are the arbiters of good and moral justice and what is or is not right or wrong. That's essentially how they appear to see themselves. Angela Merkel acts like that. They love it when U.S. users are abused by a site that's trying to play nice with some EU nation that has a lot of censorship. It's pretty funny. It's actually not very funny, though, because it screws people whose actual, online thing is their job as well. Again, I feel terrible for people, like, in the wake of, like, Twitter Purge, Adpocalypse and stuff, algorithmic manipulation, Facebook's, newsfeed bullshit. I feel really sorry for people who subsist on, like, someone has, like, a website that they do news on. They make a living doing that through ad revenue or something. Oh, I'm sorry for you, dude. I feel real sorry for you that you don't have any other stream of income. Some of us can weather it better than others, but I mean, none of us are going to be able to weather it long term. When they declare that the old fringe is gone, so they need to find a new fringe, a new boogeyman, because the social justice warriors can't exist without a boogeyman. If they defeat one, they move on to the next rung of people. They go after them. A few years go by, that group has been decimated. They go to the next one. It's like a cancer, it metastasizes. It only ends when the social panic eventually, inevitably falls apart. But there are so many different groups that are making so much money and have so much money in the game of censorship that they're trying their best to prolong the moral panic as long as possible, do as much damage to independent creation as possible. Because the internet made them a lot of money, now they're seeking to control it perpetually so they can keep making money. It's just the way people are. It's unfortunate, but it's also true. So we need to do what we can to shield one another from censorship. It's absolutely not right. Look, what happened to American ideals? It's really funny, though. One thing I will say is slightly hilarious. It means that the identitarians now have to turn to people who are like free speech advocates after spending months saying, oh, the Constitution will protect you when your race disappears, ha ha ha, and they were sort of making light of it. They made fun of libertarianism, they make fun of constitutionalists and classical liberals. Now those people that have like significantly more force overall are going to be the ones defending them. And they're going to be reliant upon that to like shelter them and shield them so they can still speak at all. Even on like alt tech, we're going to have to protect alt tech too. It's going to take a monumental effort by people across various political spectrums. It can't just be, hey, this is the classical liberal alt tech. Everyone else is not allowed. This is the libertarian site. That's the identitarian site. Here's the alt left side. It doesn't work. There's no way that we can win if we stay fractured. We have to pull together on one thing and one thing only, everything else being fully debatable. You can talk about it for a million years, which is people should be able to have that debate. You can't have that debate, nobody wins. Nobody in society, even the neoliberals and neocons don't really win. They never, it's kind of fun to debate people online. Well, they're going to be missing that, I think, when it's gone. They should be careful what they wish for, because they might be the new fringe at some point in the future. Their beliefs may eventually be seen as fringe, as offensive. It might be considered offensive in the future to suggest that, a handful of worldwide banks should be able to screw 99% of the world's population. That might be eventually considered deeply offensive. Maybe somebody comes along and says that you should be in a gulag for saying so. I wonder if these people have thought this through before they give so much power to corporations that they've been deriding for 20 years, or to governments that they've always, and deservingly so, derided as well. That's about all. Peace out.